Looks like the more action is out of the House Judiciary Committee. Hey, everybody. You might know me as Tom. I'm a lawyer on the internet that specializes in cannabis, and I'm here to remind you that we'll be live in about a half hour. But today is a very special day because the MORE Act actually got into and out of the House Judiciary Committee, and they passed by a 24-10 vote. This is the biggest news in cannabis legalization at a federal level since the Safe Banking Act passed earlier this year, but later on in the year, in the fall, 300 to 100. And so if now, just like then, and I'll go ahead and I'll add somewhere around there in that area, the link to the video that I did about the Safe Banking Act, where I explained after it was passed that now it's going to go to get some floor action because the legalization of cannabis is doing at least one thing that's great for the public discourse. It's teaching us a lot of the legislative procedure. So after a bill gets out of a committee like the Judiciary Committee, it now sets the stage for a full floor vote, aka floor action. In fact, out of the 24-10 that voted for it, two of them were Republicans, and they splintered. And so, of course, it was almost against party lines, with all the Democrats voting for it, but two Republicans going off. And one of them is, let me just blow this up a little bit more. Why not? It's this Tom McClintock. That's right there. Now I'm able to highlight it. So anyway, Tom McClintock is a Republican from California. He's gained fame in the legalization movement at a federal level with Blumenauer. It's now the McClintock-Blumenauer amendment that has been defunding the Department of Justice since, I believe, 2014 from encroaching on medical marijuana. And hopefully this year's budget will expand that to all adult use. So let's just briefly touch on the points of what the MORE Act actually does. And well, let's start with then the MORE Act stands for the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act. It actually, I'm an Illinois cannabis lawyer. It reminds me a lot of the new Illinois cannabis laws that are going to be going into effect in 2020. So next year, maybe on the floor of Congress, they will be referencing the Illinois cannabis laws when they are debating and voting on the MORE Act, because much like in Illinois, the MORE Act provides expungement for the cannabis POWs. We just had Chris Martin on Sunday, and this Sunday, tune in for Tuna. He's going to be in. That's right. Robert Platshorn will be our guest then. And so it will help with the expungement. It will then also help with the reinvestment, kind of like how they're doing in Illinois, where there's going to be money available to go back to the communities that were most harmed by the drug war. And they also, let's see, what else is going on in the MORE Act? The MORE Act will also have a reinvestment and then the opportunity. So the social equity applicant is the most famous example in Illinois, at least, and then probably also nationwide, even though Maryland had a fairly similar type of social equity component to their applicationing systems. And why don't I put that back up in there? So who was one of the sponsors of the MORE Act? It was actually Kamala Harris. So I'm assuming that Kamala Harris will go on the offensive on this and explain how she was one of the sponsors of the MORE Act, and she can use that for political points, because if you can't use a bill that you've put forward, what can you use? And not only is the MORE Act similar to the Illinois law in the sense of the social equity and the social justice, it's also similar in the sense that it imposes a tax. And so there would be a federal tax if it passes. What are the likelihoods of it passing? Oh, let's see. Let's also check really quickly on the sponsors of the act. So that was Harris and Nadler. And so that's Jared Nadler from New York. And he is in the Judiciary Committee. So big thanks to Nadler. And I hope that New York joins Illinois next year in doing a similarly situated bill that helps with the social justice component to kind of then produce more steam behind federal bills like the MORE Act. Will it actually probably get passed? No. Will it get to a floor vote on the Congress? Yes, and that one will probably pass. However, I don't think, especially with the impeachment going on, that the Senate is in any appetite whatsoever to go ahead and then approve a Democratic bill, whether or not Donald Trump would sign it. And so that's great news in cannabis. And if you stick around here in about 30 minutes, we'll be live again. We have a wonderful guest, and I can't wait to see you guys then. Oh, I'm going to be doing a write-up on this, similar to the write-up that I did for the Safe Banking Act. So when you are Googling Safe Banking Act to learn more about it, you'll find my website. Of course, that is cannabisindustrylawyer.com. I will see you guys really, really shortly.